The sky over Earth was a shade of gray that no one had seen before. Cities burned under streaks of alien light, and the air smelled of smoke and metal. People ran through streets, clutching what little belongings they could save. Sirens screamed, echoing across the ruins of what had once been thriving metropolises. No one knew why the aliens had come, only that they had arrived suddenly and without warning. The Dravari Empire, as they would later be called, struck with a precision and ferocity that made human defenses seem almost comical. Entire fleets of ships fell from orbit before anyone could fire a shot. Ground forces, meant to defend, were destroyed before they even reached the enemy. In New York, or what was left of it, a man screamed as a building collapsed behind him. He barely had time to duck before another blast shook the streets. Fires leapt from building to building, and debris rained down like steel rain. Yet among all the chaos, some still moved with purpose. Soldiers and volunteers, firefighters and engineers, ordinary men and women who refused to panic, ran toward danger instead of away from it. They gathered supplies, rescued survivors, and tried to make sense of what was happening. Deep beneath the city, in a command bunker that had survived the initial attack, General Ilara Voss watched the events unfold on a bank of screens. Her face was calm, almost eerily so. While the rest of the world panicked, she focused on patterns, movements, and weaknesses. She had spent years preparing for threats like this, not because she expected aliens to come, but because she believed that the world was never truly safe. And now, when the nightmare had arrived, she was ready. Reports came in constantly. Some areas had been obliterated, others were holding for now. Communications with other countries were sporadic, many lines down by alien interference. Yet Voss's team relayed what they could. The Dravari were methodical, moving as if the planet were a chessboard. Each attack had a purpose. Each strike was designed to weaken and demoralize, but the humans were not helpless, not entirely. In small pockets across the globe, resistance was forming. Groups of soldiers and civilians, armed with scavenged weapons and homemade devices, had begun to fight back. Explosions tore through supply lines, alien vehicles were sabotaged, and in some places, humans even managed to shoot down enemy drones. Each act of resistance, no matter how small, was a spark of hope. Voss leaned back in her chair, studying the data. She noted how the aliens moved, where they struck, and what they left vulnerable. It was not enough to fight with brute force. Humans did not have that luxury. Instead, they would fight smart. They would hit where the Dravari least expected. They would turn desperation into opportunity. She walked to a large table covered with maps, holographic projections flickering above it. Her fingers traced the paths of the invading fleets, noting weaknesses, supply routes, and strategic positions. She called over her aides, a diverse group of men and women who had survived the first wave of attacks. "We cannot hold every city," she said quietly, her voice steady but firm. "But we can strike where it hurts them most. We can show them that Earth is not a prize to be taken without a fight." That belief would be their undoing. As night fell over the ruined city, Voss coordinated a small but critical operation. Human engineers had managed to retrofit a series of drones, using scavenged technology and whatever alien tech they could recover. These drones were fragile, imperfect, and easily destroyed, but they were fast, clever, and unpredictable. Under her orders, they were deployed against the alien supply lines, striking at fuel depots, communication hubs, and transport ships. The first drone struck a small supply vessel orbiting the planet. It exploded in a flash of light visible from the surface, sending debris spiraling into space. The humans on the ground watched through binoculars, cheering quietly. For the first time in weeks, someone smiled. For the first time, hope sparked. "Every small victory counts," Voss said to her team. "Do not underestimate what we can accomplish with cleverness. We are outnumbered, but we are not outsmarted." Homemade explosives on transport vehicles, strategically placed near alien supply routes, detonated with perfect timing. The Dravari forces were caught off guard. They had expected resistance, yes, but nothing organized, nothing coordinated. Humans learned quickly, adapted quickly, and struck back with ingenuity. Meanwhile, on the streets, civilians began to organize. Those who had survived the initial attack formed patrols, rescued trapped neighbors, and gathered supplies. Word spread that humans were fighting back, that they were capable of more than mere survival. Even in small ways, humans had started to change the narrative. In the bunker, Voss studied the patterns of these strikes. She noted how humans improvised weapons, how teams communicated silently, how small victories built morale. Her mind raced, planning the next move. The Dravari would respond, certainly, but humans would be ready. Her thoughts were interrupted by a young aide who handed her a data pad. On it were scans from a captured Dravari drone. The images were crude but revealing. They showed the aliens' supply lines, their fleet formations, and most importantly, their assumptions about humans. They believed humans were chaotic, unpredictable in a useless way, incapable of large-scale coordination. Voss studied the images, her mind sharpening like a blade. "They think we are weak," she murmured. "They think we are disorganized. That is exactly why they will lose." Explosions far above signaled human victories, small but powerful. People cheered, shouted, and clapped. In the midst of horror, life still pulsed. Humans refused to give up. For weeks, the fighting continued. Humans learned quickly, adapted faster, and used every disadvantage to their advantage. Alien ships that had seemed unstoppable fell to carefully timed strikes. Supply lines were disrupted. Communications were intercepted. Every small success built confidence, and every setback taught new lessons. Voss never stopped planning. Her mind worked constantly, analyzing enemy tactics, predicting their next moves, and creating counter-strategies. She spoke to her teams often, emphasizing intelligence, creativity, and courage over raw power. "You have something they do not," she told them one night. "You have the mind to see possibilities, you have the will to survive, you have the heart to fight. That is more powerful than any weapon." Every small fleet they destroyed seemed to be replaced by new, clever attacks. For the first time, the aliens hesitated, unsure of what humans might do next. Voss observed this change quietly from the bunker. She knew that morale and perception were as important as firepower. The Dravari had underestimated humans, and that mistake would become the foundation for Earth's survival and eventual counterattack. In the early hours of a smog-filled morning, Voss stood before a map showing the damaged cities and human positions. Her team waited for her words. "They think they can strike first and win," she said softly. "They think we will crumble. But we are stronger than they imagine. Every city they destroy, every life they take only strengthens our resolve. We are human, we endure, we adapt, we fight, and we will not stop." Teams repaired bridges, cleared rubble, and tended to the injured. Drones flew overhead, striking with precision. Humans were not defeated. They were learning to fight smarter, faster, and more cleverly than the invaders could imagine. For General Ilara Voss, the long nights of planning and coordinating were just the beginning. The Dravari had thought their arrival would mark the end of humanity. Instead, it had marked the start of a fight that would shape the future of the planet, and perhaps the galaxy. She turned from the screens, her mind already racing ahead. Plans for sabotage, counterattacks, and intelligence gathering filled her thoughts. The aliens had struck first, but humans were alive, resilient, and ready. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the first spark of resistance was already blazing brighter than the fires in the sky. Humans were learning that survival required more than courage. It required ingenuity, strategy, and unity. And as long as General Voss led them, humans would fight with a mind sharper than any weapon, with courage stronger than any fear, and with the resolve that no invader could ever truly break. The night was dark. The city was in ruins. But humanity was alive, and for the first time since the attacks began, hope burned brighter than any explosion. And somewhere deep in the command bunker, General Ilara Voss whispered almost to herself, "Let them come. They will learn the hard way that we do not surrender." The first month of the invasion had been devastating, but humanity was far from defeated. Across the globe, small groups of survivors had begun to organize themselves into units, each focusing on sabotage, intelligence gathering, or direct combat against the alien invaders. The Dravari Empire had expected humans to panic and fall apart under pressure, but instead, the opposite was happening. Every setback became a lesson. Every loss became motivation. In the ruined outskirts of Moscow, a team of humans moved silently through the debris. Their leader, Captain Ilya Petrova, checked each member of the group as they prepared for their mission. They carried scavenged weapons, some human-made and some stolen from alien drones. Their target was a Dravari supply depot hidden in the ruins of an industrial complex. If they succeeded, the depot's destruction would disrupt enemy operations for weeks. Petrova signaled the team to stop. He crouched behind a half-collapsed wall and scanned the area with his binoculars. Alien drones patrolled the perimeter, moving in precise, predictable patterns. Petrova noted the timing and direction of each patrol. This was the kind of careful observation that human fighters had learned to rely on: patience, creativity, and adaptability. "Wait for my signal," he whispered. "We move together, no mistakes." They had no time for hesitation. Every second counted. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in the bunker beneath New York, General Ilara Voss monitored the same patterns through satellite images and recovered alien data. She had spent countless hours analyzing captured Dravari information and had discovered weaknesses in their supply lines, communication systems, and fleet formations. "They assume humans are disorganized," she said to her aides, pointing to the screen. "But we are learning, and we can exploit their arrogance." One misstep could mean disaster, but the humans were willing to take the risk. Back in Moscow, Petrova's team moved into position. They had learned from past failures, adapting their tactics after each encounter with the alien forces. Some members carried homemade explosives, designed to detonate remotely. Others had hacked Dravari drones, repurposing them as surveillance tools. Every piece of technology, no matter how crude or improvised, became part of their arsenal. The first explosion was small, designed to draw attention. A drone patrol veered toward the sound, leaving a gap in the perimeter. Petrova's team moved quickly, exploiting the opening. They crept through shattered corridors and over broken machinery, each step measured, each movement precise. Above them, human drones swooped down from makeshift launchers, releasing electromagnetic pulses that temporarily disabled alien security systems. Lights flickered and drones fell from the sky. The humans on the ground used the chaos to advance toward the supply depot's core. Inside the depot, they planted explosives on fuel lines, communication relays, and storage containers. Every detonation was calculated to cause maximum disruption while minimizing risk to their own team. They had learned that fighting smart was more effective than fighting hard. Once the explosives were set, Petrova signaled the withdrawal. The team retreated along the same path they had entered, staying in cover and moving silently. Moments later, the depot erupted in a series of controlled explosions. Flames shot into the sky, and alarms blared from the remaining alien drones. The Dravari forces scrambled, but it was too late. The humans had already disappeared into the shadows. Thousands of miles away in the bunker, General Voss received reports from similar operations across the globe. In Beijing, teams had sabotaged a fleet of enemy transport ships. In Lagos, humans had hacked alien communication networks, intercepting strategic data. Each success, no matter the size, chipped away at the Dravari Empire's sense of invincibility. "Every victory counts," Voss said, her voice calm but firm. "They underestimate us. And they will regret it." They had not anticipated strategy, ingenuity, or the willingness to sacrifice comfort for survival. In the skies above the ruins of Paris, another group of humans launched a coordinated attack on an alien communications hub. Using drones to disrupt sensors and small teams to infiltrate the building, they managed to plant devices that would jam signals across the region. Alien officers scrambled to counter the attack, but every response was anticipated by the humans. Each move, each countermove, displayed a level of intelligence that the Dravari had not expected. General Voss watched these operations unfold in real time. She had spent weeks studying the Dravari tactics and was now using that knowledge to predict their next moves. Her mind worked like a machine, calculating probabilities, anticipating enemy responses, and planning human counteractions. "They think they are superior," she said. "They think they can control everything, but they do not understand us. They do not understand our ability to adapt." Using repurposed alien technology, they disabled several transport ships and captured valuable supplies. The team celebrated briefly before moving on, knowing that every resource they acquired could be used to strengthen human defenses elsewhere. In the bunkers, cities, and hidden bases around the world, similar operations continued. Humans coordinated without direct contact, relying on shared intelligence, signals, and ingenuity. Each action reinforced the others, creating a web of resistance that the Dravari had not anticipated. As the weeks passed, human morale began to rise. Stories of daring attacks, successful sabotage, and clever strategies spread quickly. Civilians who had been hiding now began to participate in resistance efforts, carrying messages, scouting enemy positions, and supporting military teams. The human spirit, which the Dravari had assumed was fragile, proved unbreakable. General Voss addressed her teams one evening, her voice carrying the weight of authority and inspiration. They came to destroy us. They came thinking we would crumble. But we are learning, we are adapting, and we are fighting back. Every action you take, every life you save, every victory you claim strengthens our position. You are not just surviving, you are showing them the true power of humanity. In orbit above Earth, alien officers began to realize that their campaign was not going as planned. Supply lines were disrupted, communications intercepted, and strategic positions attacked. The humans, whom they had considered weak and predictable, were proving to be anything but. Every move they made seemed to be anticipated and countered. Back on Earth, General Voss reviewed the latest reports from Petrova's team in Moscow. They had successfully sabotaged multiple supply lines, rescued civilians, and even captured alien drones for study. Each success provided new opportunities for human innovation. Engineers worked tirelessly to reverse engineer alien technology, adapting it for human use. The more humans learned, the stronger they became. Voss knew that this was only the beginning. The Dravari had superior technology, greater numbers, and experience in conquest. But humans had something the aliens did not: creativity, adaptability, and the will to fight for their home. Every victory, no matter how small, reminded them of that strength. As dawn broke over a scarred and smoky horizon, human forces regrouped, repaired, and prepared for the next wave of attacks. The world was still in chaos, but hope had returned. Humans were no longer just reacting, they were planning, striking, and reclaiming. In the command bunker, Voss stood before a massive map of the planet, marking areas of human control and enemy presence. Her team worked around her, coordinating new operations, analyzing enemy patterns, and preparing for future strikes. "They thought they could win by striking first," she said quietly, her eyes scanning the data. "But they underestimated us, and that will be their greatest mistake." They scavenged supplies, repaired defenses, and prepared for the inevitable next strike. Civilians trained alongside soldiers, learning to fight and survive. Communities organized themselves into networks of resistance, sharing information, resources, and support. The Dravari, for all their power, had not yet learned the most important lesson: humans were not predictable. They could not be broken by fear, intimidation, or destruction alone. Every action, every decision, every daring move strengthened humanity's position. In a small, hidden bunker under the ruins of Berlin, a young engineer watched the sky as flashes from drone attacks lit the clouds. She smiled, realizing that humans were not just surviving, they were taking the fight to the aliens. And in the command bunker beneath New York, General Ilara Voss reviewed the reports from across the globe. Her mind raced with possibilities, strategies, and contingency plans. The humans had struck back, and they had done so with precision, courage, and intelligence. "They think they are invincible," she said, her voice firm and calm. "But they do not know what it means to fight a human. They do not know what it means to face a species that will never give up. We are learning, we are adapting, and soon we will show them that humanity cannot be conquered." But it also rose over a planet where hope had returned, where humans were striking back, and where a spark of resistance was growing into a flame that no force in the galaxy could extinguish. Humanity had survived the first strike, and now the fight had truly begun. The months of constant attacks and small victories had changed humanity. Fear still existed, of course, but it no longer dominated. People had learned, adapted, and evolved under pressure. The human mind, fueled by necessity and determination, had become the greatest weapon against the Dravari Empire. And in the bunker beneath New York, General Ilara Voss studied the patterns of the alien forces, searching for the perfect opportunity to strike. She found it in the orbital fleet, a series of ships that patrolled just outside Earth's atmosphere. They were powerful, heavily armed, and feared by all humans who had glimpsed them. But Voss noticed a flaw: their movements were predictable. They assumed humans were disorganized, reckless, and desperate. They had underestimated humanity's ability to plan, coordinate, and learn. Voss called her aides together. "We have a chance," she said. "A single strike can change the course of this war, but it must be precise, it must be bold, it must show them that humanity is not weak, not chaotic, and not afraid." Ground teams on Earth would launch simultaneous attacks to prevent reinforcements. Every movement was coordinated to the second. The goal was not just destruction, it was a message. Humanity could strike with intelligence, speed, and precision. In Moscow, Captain Ilya Petrova prepared his team for the ground operations. They had trained for this moment for weeks, using captured alien schematics, improvised weapons, and detailed maps of enemy positions. Each member understood the stakes. Failure was not an option, but success would prove that humans could challenge the most powerful force in the galaxy. Petrova looked at his team, a mix of soldiers, engineers, and civilians who had adapted to life as warriors. "Remember," he said quietly, "we fight smart, we fight together, we strike where it hurts them most. Let them see that humans do not surrender." Pilots checked systems, ran simulations, and visualized their movements. Every detail mattered. The smallest mistake could cost lives or the entire operation. At last, the operation began. Ground teams moved silently across targeted cities, sabotaging power grids, supply routes, and communication networks. Explosions echoed in the distance, synchronized to create distractions. Alien forces scrambled, unaware that the humans' true strike was coming from above. The pilots breached the orbital defenses. Using cloaking technology adapted from Dravari ships, they slipped past the first layer of enemy patrols. The humans had studied the fleet's movements for weeks, learning its patterns, its vulnerabilities, and its assumptions. They were ghosts in the shadows, striking with precision where the aliens least expected it. Captain Li Wei, leading a squadron of hybrid drones, scanned the enemy ships. "Target locked," she reported. "Ready to engage." Explosions tore through the storage compartments, sending fire and debris across space. Alien ships scrambled to respond, but every reaction was anticipated. Human pilots moved like water, weaving through debris, striking key points, and retreating before the Dravari could fire. Below on Earth, ground teams continued their sabotage. Power systems failed, orbital weapons were disrupted, and transport hubs were destroyed. Human ingenuity turned every disadvantage into an advantage. A single explosive planted on a bridge halted a convoy of enemy reinforcements. A hacked communications hub sent false signals, leading alien ships away from critical areas. Voss monitored everything, her calm demeanor masking the intensity of her focus. She adjusted operations in real time, redirecting teams and pilots based on the flow of battle. Every small decision amplified the effectiveness of the strike. In the orbital fleet, the aliens realized they were under attack, not just from humans on the ground, but from a coordinated assault above. Panic spread among their ranks, orders were delayed, ships collided, drones fell from orbit. The Dravari had assumed humans were reactive, but now they were proactive, striking simultaneously on multiple fronts. Captain Petrova's team infiltrated the central supply depot on Earth's surface. They set explosives on critical fuel lines and communication systems. Their movements were precise, almost surgical. Every step was calculated to maximize damage while minimizing risk. The explosions ripped through the depot, sending smoke and fire into the night sky. Alien forces scrambled to respond, but the humans had already vanished into the shadows. In orbit, human pilots executed daring maneuvers to disable the fleet's command ships. Using speed, intelligence, and misdirection, they avoided the aliens' superior firepower and struck at key systems. Ships once thought invincible were now crippled. Energy shields failed. Communication lines went silent. The Dravari were stunned. Voss smiled as she watched the battle unfold. This was more than a victory in war, it was a statement. Humans were clever, resilient, and unbroken. The Dravari had underestimated them at every turn, and now they were paying the price. The operation continued for hours. Human forces coordinated attacks with precision, striking multiple targets simultaneously. Every action reinforced the others. Every small victory created momentum. For the first time, humans were no longer merely defending, they were taking the fight to the enemy. As the dust settled, reports began to filter in. Dozens of Dravari ships were destroyed or disabled. Supply lines were shattered. Communication hubs were compromised. On Earth, key cities had been liberated from alien control, at least temporarily. The humans had turned the tide in a single, well-executed strike. Voss addressed her teams through secure channels. "Today we have shown them what it means to face humanity. They thought we would crumble. They thought we were weak. They were wrong. Every move, every plan, every act of courage proves that humans are not to be underestimated." Civilians participated in cleanup and support efforts, knowing that every contribution strengthened the collective effort. The unity and determination of humanity had become as powerful a weapon as any technology or strategy. The Dravari, stunned and confused, attempted to regroup. Their fleet was scattered, and their supply lines disrupted. They had never faced an enemy that could think, plan, and adapt so quickly. Every assumption they had made about human weakness had been shattered. In the weeks following the strike, humans consolidated their gains. Engineers reverse-engineered alien technology to strengthen defenses. Pilots trained with captured ships, learning to use them more efficiently. Ground teams developed new strategies for sabotage and intelligence gathering. Humanity was evolving under fire, growing stronger with each encounter. General Voss continued to monitor the progress. She coordinated operations, studied enemy movements, and adapted strategies in real time. Her leadership had become the backbone of human resistance. Under her guidance, humans were not just surviving, they were becoming a force to be reckoned with. Across the globe, stories of human ingenuity and bravery spread. In Beijing, a team had captured a Dravari drone and used it to relay false signals, misleading entire enemy squads. In Lagos, engineers had repurposed alien energy cells to power makeshift weapons. In Buenos Aires, civilians had sabotaged supply convoys, proving that even ordinary people could make a difference. Every story reinforced the central truth. Humans were not weak, not chaotic, and not predictable. They were adaptive, intelligent, and unyielding. Voss reflected on the journey so far. From the initial attacks that had devastated cities to this point, humans had grown stronger with every challenge. They had learned to fight with strategy, courage, and ingenuity. They had turned desperation into opportunity and weakness into strength. The orbital victory had proven one undeniable fact: the Dravari had miscalculated. They had assumed humans would crumble under pressure, but instead, humans had turned adversity into power. The war was no longer one-sided. Humans had seized the initiative and shown that they could strike with intelligence, coordination, and precision. As night fell once more over Earth, lights flickered in cities that were slowly being rebuilt. Fires from battles still burned in places, but the mood was no longer despair. Humans moved with purpose, repairing infrastructure, planning next operations, and preparing for the challenges ahead. General Voss looked at the stars through the bunker's reinforced windows. The alien fleet was still out there, powerful and dangerous. But humanity had changed. They were no longer the prey. They were hunters, and this victory, small as it might seem in the grand scope of war, had shifted the balance. "Let them see," Voss said softly, her eyes shining with determination. "We are human, we are clever, we are relentless, and we will not stop until we have reclaimed our home." The Dravari Empire was wounded, yes, but still vast and formidable. Yet humans had discovered something the aliens had never anticipated: strategy, intelligence, and the unbreakable will to survive and fight back. In the shadows, in hidden bunkers and ruined cities, humans prepared for the next phase. Each plan, each maneuver, each calculated risk brought them closer to victory. The Dravari might have thought they were invincible, but humans had shown that even the mightiest force could be challenged by determination, ingenuity, and courage. And at the center of it all, General Ilara Voss remained calm, focused, and ready. She had turned fear into strategy, chaos into order, and survival into victory. Humanity was no longer waiting to be destroyed. They were striking back. And they were only getting started. After the orbital strike, humanity's confidence had grown, but General Ilara Voss knew better than to celebrate too soon. The Dravari Empire, wounded though it was, remained vast, powerful, and ruthless. Every victory so far had been small in comparison to the scale of the war to come. Yet each success had proven something critical. Humans could fight, adapt, and even outsmart an enemy that thought them weak. In New York's underground command center, Voss stood before a massive holographic map of the planet. Red dots marked alien positions, blue dots marked human-controlled zones, and flickering lines indicated supply routes. Her mind raced through possibilities, analyzing weaknesses, predicting movements, and planning the next phase of human operations. "We have disrupted their supply lines," she said, pointing to the map. "We have shown them we can strike with precision, but the fight is far from over. The Dravari will regroup. We must be ready to respond and to strike again." In Johannesburg, civilians coordinated intelligence networks, tracking alien movements and sending reports to military hubs. Humanity was no longer scattered. It was organized, coordinated, and growing stronger every day. One of the most ambitious operations took place in the ruins of Rio de Janeiro. Captain Mariana Silva led a team tasked with liberating a city that had been under alien control since the first wave. Using intelligence gathered from previous battles, they had mapped out the alien command posts, drone patrol routes, and supply depots. Their mission was not just to fight. It was to reclaim territory and demonstrate that humans could take and hold ground. Silva's team moved at night, avoiding detection. They used shadows, rubble, and improvised camouflage to approach enemy positions. Small, coordinated strikes disabled drones, sabotaged communications, and cut off reinforcements. Explosions lit up the city, but only briefly. Humans struck quickly and withdrew, leaving confusion in their wake. As the team advanced toward the central command post, Silva communicated with General Voss through secure channels. "We are approaching the target," she said. "Everything is in place, ready for your signal." Explosives destroyed key structures, while hackers infiltrated alien systems, sending false commands to drones and vehicles. The aliens, used to controlling humans through fear and technology, were now being manipulated by the very species they sought to dominate. Chaos spread among their ranks. Meanwhile, in orbit, human pilots continued to disrupt the enemy fleet. Hybrid drones, now more sophisticated after weeks of trial and error, disabled communication arrays and power generators on multiple ships. Small strikes became a web of coordinated attacks, forcing the Dravari to respond defensively rather than offensively. Humans were not just surviving, they were dictating the terms of the conflict. On Earth, civilians played a vital role. They repaired infrastructure, tended to the wounded, and relayed intelligence. Communities organized themselves into networks of support and defense, blending civilian life with resistance operations. Even in ruined cities, people adapted to the new reality, proving that survival and ingenuity went hand in hand. General Voss observed all of this from her command center. She saw the difference that coordination, planning, and ingenuity made. Humans were not relying on raw strength. They were using brains, courage, and adaptability. Every operation, no matter how small, reinforced the growing sense of human dominance. Reports came from multiple fronts. In London, a team had intercepted and redirected an alien supply convoy, sending it to a remote, uninhabited location where it could be destroyed safely. In Lagos, engineers had rigged a drone swarm to create the illusion of a massive human force, forcing the Dravari to spread their defenses thin. In New Delhi, a group had captured a Dravari officer and extracted critical strategic information. Each success built momentum. Each victory strengthened human resolve and morale. The Dravari, for all their power, were now reacting to humans rather than controlling them. Their arrogance had turned into caution, and caution was a sign of fear. Humans had become the hunters. In a remote base beneath the Siberian tundra, General Voss convened a strategic council. Her aides, advisors, and pilots joined her, each contributing knowledge, experience, and insight. Together, they planned the next wave of operations, larger, bolder, and even more coordinated than before. "We strike again," Voss said, her finger tracing routes across the map. "This time, it will not just be a raid. We will take ground, reclaim territory, and force the Dravari to recognize that Earth belongs to humans. Every operation we conduct strengthens our position and weakens theirs. Every move they make, we will anticipate and counter." And they knew that the future of humanity depended on their continued efforts. Back on the ground, Silva's team moved through the liberated sectors of Rio. Civilians emerged cautiously from hiding, watching as humans reestablished control. Soldiers coordinated with local communities to provide food, medical care, and security. The message was clear. Humans could reclaim their cities, protect their people, and hold territory against the most advanced invaders in the galaxy. Above, in orbit, human pilots continued to disrupt alien operations. They had learned to use speed, stealth, and clever tactics to outmaneuver the enemy. Even when facing superior firepower, they relied on adaptability and intelligence to strike critical points and then disappear before the Dravari could respond. General Voss monitored each operation, adjusting strategies in real time. Every decision, every order, every calculation amplified the effectiveness of human efforts. The enemy had assumed humans were reactive, but now they were constantly forced to respond to human initiative. In Tokyo, engineers repurposed alien energy cells to power defensive grids and mobile weapon platforms. In Buenos Aires, teams intercepted supply shipments and redirected them to strategic locations where humans could capture or destroy them. Across continents, humans combined intelligence, strategy, and ingenuity to create a network of resistance and offensive power that the Dravari had never anticipated. The more humans learned, the stronger they became. Every captured piece of alien technology provided new opportunities. Every successful raid proved that humans were capable of extraordinary feats. And every act of courage inspired others to rise, fight, and innovate. In New York, Voss studied a holographic display showing operations across the planet. Lines connecting human positions and enemy positions illustrated a web of influence, disruption, and control. Humans were no longer confined to survival. They were shaping the battlefield. "They think they control the galaxy," she said softly to herself. "But they do not understand what it means to face a human mind, a human spirit, a human heart." In Sydney, engineers hacked alien systems to misdirect reinforcements. The coordinated efforts, small individually but monumental collectively, were shifting the balance of power. The Dravari Empire, once confident and unchallenged, was now cautious, reactive, and increasingly frustrated. They had assumed humans were weak, chaotic, and easy to control. But humans were neither weak nor chaotic. They were adaptive, resilient, and capable of coordinated action that even the most advanced alien technology could not fully anticipate. As weeks passed, humanity consolidated its gains. Territories once under alien control were liberated and fortified. Supply lines were secured. Intelligence networks grew stronger. Pilots and ground teams learned to operate seamlessly together. Every victory reinforced the human ability to strike decisively, survive, and rebuild. General Voss knew the war was far from over, but humanity had changed. They had discovered a power beyond weapons and numbers, strategy, creativity, and the will to survive. The Dravari could no longer dominate through fear alone. Humans were proving themselves to be a force that could challenge, adapt to, and even outthink the Empire. At the end of one long day, Voss addressed her team through secure communication channels. "We have turned the tide on some fronts," she said. "But this is only the beginning. The Dravari are formidable, but they are not invincible. Every city we reclaim, every operation we execute, every life we save strengthens us and weakens them. We are human, we endure, we adapt, and we will not stop." Civilians and soldiers alike worked together, united by a single goal: survival, resilience, and eventual victory. The Dravari, for all their technology and power, had learned something vital. Humans could not be predicted, intimidated, or controlled by force alone. Intelligence, creativity, coordination, and courage made them a unique threat. And the longer the war continued, the more the humans would learn, adapt, and gain strength. In the underground bunker beneath New York, General Alara Voss studied the map one last time before retiring for the night. She could hear the hum of communication channels, the low murmur of teams coordinating across the globe, and the quiet determination of a species that refused to be broken. The human race had survived the first strikes, reclaimed lost ground, and struck back with intelligence and courage. They had shown the galaxy that even in the face of a vast, powerful enemy, humanity could endure, adapt, and triumph. And as she looked at the stars beyond the city, Voss knew that the next phase of the war would not just be about survival. It would be about proving to the Dravari that humans were a species to be respected, feared, and never underestimated. The battle was far from over, but humanity had learned its greatest lesson. With courage, ingenuity, and unity, no enemy, no matter how vast, could crush them. And with that knowledge, they were ready to continue the fight, stronger and smarter than ever before. The Dravari Empire, once confident and seemingly unstoppable, was now shaken. Their fleets had been scattered, supply lines disrupted, and command networks infiltrated. They had assumed humans were weak, reactive, and disorganized. They had assumed that a first strike would be enough to conquer a planet. They had been wrong. General Alara Voss stood in the command bunker beneath New York, overlooking a massive digital map of the solar system. Red dots marked alien positions, blue dots marked human forces, and pulsing lines showed supply routes that were now vulnerable. Humanity had grown stronger with every engagement. They had learned, adapted, and evolved. Now it was time to finish what they had started. "We have weakened their command structure," Voss said, addressing her council of aides and pilots. "We have disrupted their supply lines and taken back our cities. Now we strike at the heart of the Empire. This is not just a battle, it is a message. Humanity is not to be underestimated. We are not victims. We are warriors, we are the future." Humanity's strength was no longer just in weapons. It was in unity, coordination, and ingenuity. Captain Ilya Petrova and his team, now seasoned from countless operations, prepared for their part in the assault. Their mission was to liberate the remaining human cities still under alien control and to secure key positions for the final strike. They moved through ruined streets with precision, sabotaging alien supply hubs, clearing communication towers, and rescuing trapped civilians. Every action was synchronized with orbital strikes above. In orbit, General Voss's pilots readied hybrid ships and drones for the largest offensive yet. They would strike the Dravari Command Center orbiting the moon of Mars, the nerve center controlling fleets across the solar system. Intelligence indicated the center was vulnerable after weeks of coordinated human attacks. The opportunity to strike decisively had arrived. Voss addressed the orbital strike team through secure channels. This is it. The success of this operation will decide the fate of Earth and the freedom of humanity. Strike with intelligence. Strike with precision. Strike with courage. Show them what it means to face a species that refuses to surrender. Using stolen and modified alien technology, they slipped past defensive patrols, disabled shields, and avoided fire from massive energy cannons. Every move had been practiced, every contingency accounted for. Human ingenuity and adaptability had turned disadvantage into advantage. On the moon's surface, ground teams sabotaged power conduits and communications arrays, cutting off the Dravari Command Center from reinforcements. Explosions lit the horizon as carefully planted charges detonated, creating confusion and disarray within the enemy ranks. The humans had learned to fight not only with weapons, but with strategy and psychological impact. Inside the command center, Dravari officers scrambled. Alarms blared, ships reported attacks, supplies were disrupted, communications had been intercepted. Their confidence faltered for the first time since the invasion began. They had assumed humans could only react, never plan, never coordinate. Now humans were dictating the battle. Captain Li Wei piloted her hybrid ship through the debris, targeting critical systems with precision strikes. Explosions ripped through the command center, destroying energy relays, docking bays, and control towers. Alien ships attempted to mount counterattacks, but the humans had anticipated every move. Drones disabled weapons, misdirected reinforcements, and protected human forces. On the surface of Mars's moon, Voss coordinated the assault. Ground teams advanced with synchronized precision, capturing key positions, clearing alien forces, and securing control points. Each victory above was matched below, reinforcing human dominance and reducing enemy options. Inside the command bunker, Voss's eyes scanned the holographic map. Red dots disappeared as human forces captured targets, blue dots expanded. Every calculation, every plan, every risk taken had paid off. Humanity was on the verge of victory. The Dravari tried to mount a desperate counteroffensive. Massive ships surged toward human positions, firing energy beams, deploying drones, and attempting to reclaim lost ground. But humans had adapted. Hybrid drones intercepted attacks, misdirected weapons, and disabled critical components. Orbital and ground forces worked in perfect coordination, striking weak points and exploiting gaps. Every attack was met with a human countermeasure. Captain Petrova's team advanced into the remaining alien strongholds on Earth. Explosions echoed through ruined cities as they cleared patrols, disabled devices, and freed civilians. Engineers hacked alien networks, redirecting resources to human hands. Civilians assisted by carrying supplies, relaying messages, and providing first aid. Humanity's strength was in its people, and everyone contributed. In orbit above Mars, the final strike team approached the Dravari Command Center's core. Energy shields flickered under the sustained human assault. Pilots targeted communication arrays, weapon systems, and structural points. Drones moved like shadows, avoiding detection, striking precisely, and retreating before the aliens could respond. Every attack weakened the enemy's ability to organize. Inside the command center, panic spread. Officers shouted orders, but responses were delayed, misdirected, or ignored due to sabotage. Ships collided. Power systems failed. The humans had broken the nerve center of the Dravari Empire in the solar system. Confidence turned to confusion. Confusion turned to fear. General Voss addressed the strike team. "We are at the heart of their empire. Now show them what humanity is capable of. Strike with precision, strike with courage, and strike without hesitation. This is our planet, our solar system, and our future. Make them understand that they cannot conquer us." Explosions tore through the command center as humans disabled the remaining energy generators, destroyed docking bays, and sabotaged weapon systems. Alien ships attempted retreat, but the humans had anticipated escape routes. Drones intercepted ships, pilots engaged enemy vessels with precision, and ground teams secured every access point. On the surface of Mars's moon, Voss coordinated human movements, ensuring every operation aligned with orbital strikes. Civilians and soldiers alike worked together, securing captured facilities, assisting survivors, and preparing for the inevitable counterattacks. Humanity had learned that every victory was not just about destruction, it was about rebuilding and strengthening. Within hours, the Dravari command center was crippled. Communication networks were down, fleet coordination was impossible, supply lines were severed. The once mighty empire had been humbled by a species it had considered weak, disorganized, and expendable. Humans had turned the tide of the war through intelligence, strategy, coordination, and courage. On Earth, news of the victories spread rapidly through surviving networks. Civilians cheered, soldiers celebrated, people realized that they were no longer under constant threat but were now reclaiming their world. Humanity had not only survived, it had won. General Voss addressed the human forces across secure channels. Today, we have shown the Dravari Empire what it means to face humanity. They assumed they could conquer us, destroy our cities, and break our spirit. They were wrong. We have endured, we have adapted, we have struck back, and now we rise. Civilians joined in the effort, providing food, medicine, and intelligence. Every citizen contributed to a global effort that had become more than survival. It had become proof of human resilience and ingenuity. The Dravari, defeated and demoralized, withdrew from the solar system. Their fleets scattered. Their control collapsed. They had underestimated a species that was not only capable of surviving, but of striking back with intelligence, courage, and unity. Humanity had proven that they could not be conquered, controlled, or broken. In the aftermath, General Voss addressed the entire human population through secure channels, her voice firm, calm, and inspiring. "You struck Earth first," she said, her tone carrying across the globe. "But now we have shown that we are not victims. We are humans. We are clever, resilient, and unbroken. We have reclaimed our world. We have defended our people. And we will not stop until every part of our planet, and every corner of space that fears us, knows that humanity cannot be conquered." What had begun as a desperate fight for survival had transformed into a demonstration of human ingenuity, courage, and unity. General Voss stood alone on the observation deck of the New York bunker, looking up at the stars. The Dravari fleets had been driven back. Earth was safe, for now. But she knew the lessons of this war would guide humanity into the future. Humans had learned that survival required more than weapons. It required intelligence, adaptability, and unbreakable determination. She smiled quietly. Humanity had survived the unimaginable. They had fought not only with courage but with strategy. They had endured loss, adapted to challenges, and transformed desperation into opportunity. Humanity had proven to the galaxy that they were a force to be reckoned with. In the weeks that followed, humans continued to consolidate their control over Earth and nearby space. Colonies and satellites were repaired, alien technology was repurposed, and intelligence networks were expanded. Humanity was no longer just a species struggling to survive. They were a species that could defend, innovate, and thrive in the face of impossible odds. Voss addressed her commanders one last time before returning to her private quarters. "This war has taught us who we are," she said. "We are clever, we are resilient, we are brave, and we are unstoppable when we work together. The galaxy may have doubted us, but we have shown the truth. We are humans, and we will always rise." The Dravari Empire had learned the cost of underestimating humanity. And on that day, the galaxy understood something else as well. Humans were not just survivors. Humans were fighters, innovators, and conquerors of challenges. They had defended their home, reclaimed their world, and proven that the human spirit could overcome even the greatest of threats. The war was over, but humanity's story was just beginning. From the ashes of destruction, a new era rose. Earth was no longer just a planet under threat. It was a symbol of human strength, ingenuity, and resilience. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again. And somewhere deep in the heart of the New York bunker, General Ilera Voss whispered once more, a promise and a warning in a single breath. "You struck Earth first. Now you know what happens when humanity fights back."